check. see. I thought I was going to have some trouble, but I'm good.
Got a couple wireless mics here if you need them.
Yeah, this one worked. I'll do it from here. It's
We're going to be recording, and then we're also streaming in Mandeville 111.
okay.
It gets a little too crowded.
Right.
Hey,
Hello
how's it
again.
going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. We got a couple of wireless mics here. We're live streaming. We're recording, and we're also live streaming in Mandeville 111. Yeah, you can let them know if it gets too crowded in here. And like I said, I'm also recording locally, so we'll make this available for viewing after everyone's not here. If they want to check it out. Just a reminder that anything that's not said into a mic is not going to be on the stream and not on the recording.
Okay, I try to. I wander, so I'll have to.
That's what 111.
If you can't find a seat, we are simulcasting to Mandeville 111. So you can go in there. And the packets that are going around, take one and pass it.
And take one for a friend if you have one.
And he said, take one for a friend if you need it. Or an enemy.
What's in your projector? stamina, you need determination, and you need perseverance. So we're there to help you in that on-distance race, right? So I'm gonna walk you through how you're gonna make the process for making the company selection. You probably are aware of the Business Policy HQ website that you should have been referred to by your management professor. If you have, and the address of the Business Policy website is here. So this is the short address if you need to reach to it now. Or you can also use that long URL, right? And if you click on that link, it'll take you, where's the mouse? It'll take you here. It'll take you in the Business Policy website, and I'm basically going to walk you through some of the screens that you see here. So let me just go back to the PowerPoint. So company selection, as you know, we're going to start the process on Tuesday at 11 a.m. sharp. Right, and the way that we're gonna coordinate the timing, you can see here on HQ that there's an official clock. You click there, everybody will know what time 11 o'clock is, so that we know you know when the start is, right? So the idea is that each team across all sections of business policy need to have one unique ticker, right? There's no team that can have the same company, and it's going to work strictly on a first come, first served basis, right? You probably, I think most of you have already registered in your respective class. You need that PIN number that was provided by your management professor. If you don't have that PIN number, you're going to be in trouble. So make sure that you have the PIN number. If it works to do the team registration, you should be okay. For the company selection, right? And basically at 11 a.m. you need to be logged in into your St. Joseph account, and then you click on that screen that says select ticker, right? If you do that today, if you do that now, it's not going to work because the company selection at the moment is closed, right? But on Tuesday, when you click here where it says select ticker, it'll take you to this screen, right? And this screen is where you're gonna make your selection, right? You can, basically you need to write your section, you need to write your team number, and you need to write your PIN number. And after that, you write that ticker, right? That ticker symbol, and then you press submit. But once you press submit, it's gonna take you. You need to go to a screen that's gonna look like this, right? In that screen, you will know whether you won, whether your request was successful, right? And basically, you need to see whether you were the first team requesting that company, right? If you were first, that's great because it automatically awarded to you. You don't need to do anything else, right? But if you don't, then you need to move quickly, right? You can see here, I believe this is from last semester, is by seconds that teams don't get their first choice, and then you need to move on to the second choice. If you don't get the first choice, then you need to request another company. Go back to the other screen, to the prior screen, and then make the next selection, right? And this semester we're also allowing teams to temporarily select up to two tickers, right? And we're gonna follow what we call it like a Cinderella type rule. You can keep that second company for 24 hours. Kind of the rules basically says that the second ticker will expire by midnight of the next calendar day, right? And it'll tell you here if you ask for a second company, it'll immediately say on the second ticker that it expires on a certain day by midnight, right? And the idea is that you have some time to select which of the two companies you want to keep, right? There's no team can have more than two, right? If I see a team that has three, I immediately will eliminate the third choice, right? So it's up to you to select the companies that you want to keep, right? And the idea is to use this ticker withdrawal form, right? It's the same thing as the ticker request, but now it's to cancel a prior selection that your team has been awarded, right? And it works the same way. You need your section, you need your team, you need your PIN number, and in addition to that, you need a W number. The W number is the number associated with winning that company, right? And then you process this, and it'll tell you. Go back to the other screen, and it'll tell you. You will see whether that request was successfully withdrawn, right? I have here some data from prior semester. You can see here that in the first 30 minutes, there were a lot of requests, right? And tend to stabilize after 30 minutes. And some statistics are down here, right? 29 teams out of 70 got their first request. 21 teams out of 70 had to make 2 requests, and about 20 teams had to do more than 3 requests, right? Don't worry, there's plenty of companies out there that you can select from, right? We only need to select 7 times 9, 63 teams, right? So there's plenty of companies, plenty of public companies that you can select from. And if you don't get your first choice, don't rush, don't panic, right? You need to move quickly, right? You need to have that short list that you're gonna enter into the system, right? I also want to point out that Business Policy HQ has course-wide materials. It's at the bottom, right? We have this How to Read Financial Reports PDF file that is very useful. We also have the Business Policy Competition Archives. You can see the streaming videos and awards from the prior 4 semesters, right? So these are things that you would like to check out. So I'm going to pass it on to Professor Kelly.
So I'm your connection for FactSet. Okay, now we're going to go through some of the important reasons why to have it. We'll talk a little bit about the install, but let me highlight a few things to start off. First, this year on Business Policy Headquarters, as with any of the sections that I teach on your Canvas page, there's a video on installing and getting started with FactSet. So there is some information there already, along with some install directions that are just another version of what you get in your email. So why do we use FactSet? Well, look, it's for you guys, it's free. It's industry level research, free. You don't have to pay anything, and it's all at your fingertips. Every one of you can have it on your computer. It's easy, fast, accurate, which right now with the company choice is what you need. So let me highlight stuff about company choice before I go on in FactSet. Biggest problem, and those that were in my sections when we did the intro day, we highlighted this, that students have is not spending time picking an appropriate company, and therefore having a very, we'll put it in a nice term, frustrating rest of the semester. And that is usually because they picked a neat company, it sounded neat, but didn't do any research on the company. And then they figured it out 3 weeks in, and they were stuck with it. So a couple things to guide you. One, the company has to have been public for 3 years. Why? Because if they went public just a year ago, yes, there will be 3 years of financials. However, 2 of those years will be from when they were private. And private companies act differently than public companies. Imagine you're at school and you're at home with your parents. Slightly different behavior. Same thing goes on with companies. And so it's not, plus they get this money, they've cut costs in order to go public, then they ramp up and spend all sorts of money, and it's going to be really hard to figure out. Second one, U.S. traded company, period, end of story. Not a U.S. ADR, as in like a Toyota. You want a U.S. company that is set up, headquartered in the U.S., so you don't have to do weird things like different accounting systems or converting currencies. Next, stay away from industries and areas that are just going to confuse you. We got finance people in here, right? You love financial companies. They're hard to understand. They're hard to figure out. They're even more harder to come up with strategies for. So don't just take the thing you love. Risk management people in here. Don't take insurance companies. It's going to be hard. Don't take regulated, which are things like utilities. You can't change anything. Don't take something like a Boeing and say we're going to make more fuel-efficient aircraft. Do you know how long it takes to plan out an aircraft? You guys are doing 3 to 5 year plans. You're not going to see anything in there positive-wise for 15 or more years. So think about it. But then we need 3 public U.S. comps, comparables. You might be able to get by with 2. Probably better to get 3. You can't just pick 3 because FactSet said there was 3 on there. You picked a really small toy company and it lists Amazon and Walmart as competitors. Well, yeah, they are the competitors. Walmart is the biggest seller of toys in the country. Maybe the world too. But you're not comparing apples to apples. So you're actually going to have to look through it a little bit. And FactSet puts all these different things at your fingertips. If you don't do these things, and you pick a convoluted company that you don't understand, you don't know how they make their money, they didn't go public, they're a foreign company, it'll either be rejected or you're going to hate life. You may still do fine on the project, but this is your first time doing this type of stuff. Don't make it tougher than it has to be. Okay, so FactSet is going to be your first level. Everybody here who was registered as of 2 weeks ago got 1 or 2 emails. You got 1 email if you had FactSet in the class before. You got 2 emails if this is the first time you ever had FactSet. Now, when I said you had it in class before, meaning the professor gave it to you, you might have never used it, you're still only going to get 1 email. Okay. Now, in this information, it has install instructions, and if you get 2, it has your username and password. Kind of important things to get started on this. Okay, if you were not registered, contact me. Okay, if you can't find the email, check spam or delete it, because a lot of you, 2 weeks ago was before school started, you just deleted everything you got. Okay, if you still can't, try going to this link and click forgot username. Maybe you had it from a prior class. You can get your username back. I only got 1 email. It was in the other class. You could also have forgotten the password. We can do whatever. Now, if you click that and you keep not getting an email back, they're not sending me email. I keep saying I forgot my password or whatever. It's likely that me or some other professor put in the wrong graduation date for you, or you decided to be on the 7 or 8 year plan. I have to manually contact FactSet for you and have them change your graduation date. If you follow the directions, and by the way, everybody, easiest one to use right now, use Chrome. Whether you're on Mac or you're on, use Chrome. If you're on Mac, by the way, I'm supposed to say we don't support Mac, but that's beside the point. And you want to use Safari, make sure you have every single update done on your computer. That is usually the holdup. But let's say you did all this stuff and you follow the directions, and the key word is follow the directions. It's not like an app where you just click it and it installs. Then call 1-877-FactSet. You actually get the same support that a professional would, a hedge fund manager, anybody would get. In fact, a year and a half ago, when one of the students from here called up, they ended up with one of McGuire's nieces on the phone. It's not shipped abroad or anything like that. You're going to get real support. Okay. So this is something like the email that you're going to get. It's going to have the login instructions, etc. If you didn't get this, this is where we first start tackling our issues. Now, once you do get it working, this, sorry, it's a little foggy, is what your login screen looks like. Okay? It'll take you to Learning Portal. There's videos. You can find out how to do anything on it. However, you're going to spend most of your time on company security. You can find out everything you want on this company. And you can type in the name. Oh, I got to make sure I'm by the microphone. Otherwise, it's not recording. Of the company. You don't need to know the symbol. Most people in here might know Apple symbol. But say you don't. Start typing in literally Apple. It'll find it. You hit return, it'll show the symbol then. You now know your symbol for registering. You can go through comps, you can get financials, you can do everything here. For this first round, we don't expect people to go in here and then to do the next 4 hours of research on library stuff. This is where we start. This is where you'll end up with your 10K. You can listen to earnings calls. You can do all sorts of things, which I'm not going to, it's really intuitive. But if you don't do the stuff on here, and you go, I'm just going to use Google Finance or Yahoo Finance, your semester will start off with the wrong choice and it will be miserable. And I'm highlighting that so much because company choice is what matters. Yes? Connect. FactSet Connect. Okay, FactSet Connect is what you guys get. You can also put it on your phone for any of you that really, just want to get overly involved in it. You can put it on your tablet. But I will be here afterwards to help people out. Okay? Just actually attempt, because usually it's step 2 or 3, and I will have students that swear they did everything, they did it. We'll go, and they're like, oh, you mean that first bulleted point I'm actually supposed to do? And I end up supporting, last semester we had 1,457 faculty and staff on FactSet. Guess who the support is for that? And that's where the list starts and ends. Okay? So I do want people to actually be adults and attempt to do it on their own and not just come running to me right away. So afterwards, if you have questions, I will go and help you. Okay? You can even flag me down a little bit. But I'm going to pass it on to library resources.
So Matt, I have a question for you. We do have FactSet on select stations in the Drexel Library, and they are noted as FactSet, but they're individual licenses. So is there a difference?
Yes. Between the terminal versions, is that coming out over there? Between terminal versions and the Connect, for 99% of the students in here, there is zero difference aside from how you log on. In the library, Vanderbilt 294, 295, it's an icon, you click it, and you're on. Okay? But there are some things with data feeds, which none of you are going to use. Everything else that you want to download, you can download Excel, you can download all sorts of things from your Connect version. The only people that might need the terminal are people that are maybe in an investments class or a student managed investments class. In here, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So you're going to use FactSet to get into the selection process. So we've all gotten through that. So this is a research-heavy class. These are research-heavy projects. So beyond FactSet, that's what we're going to talk about right now. So here's a couple of things before I leave this slide. There is a resource guide associated with this class. And again, because it's so research-heavy, I'll show you what the guide looks like. There's a handout that made its way around that's also in the Google site, BPHQ. It's also in, some of the professors have it in their Canvas site. because I'm a TA in those in a couple of the classes and so on. A couple of housekeeping things. There are hundreds of you, and there's just one business librarian. So if you're going to contact me, you can contact me by email. That is always the best way to reach me, okay? No voicemails, please, because I get a lot of voicemails. It's just really hard for me to, listen to the voicemails and try to get somebody's cell phone and so on. So email to C. Slater. That goes to me directly, and put in the subject line Biz 495 or policy, because there's a lot of other projects. So I just want to make sure, based on your question, the context of the class, because sometimes, I don't know whether you might be doing a food company and there's food marketing projects going on, or your question relates to something that's close to something else. So please make sure it says policy, tell me what your selected company is, the industry, and so on, so we kind of start out from that point and we don't waste a lot of time. It is always great to make an appointment with me if you later on, usually later on, a few weeks in, once you actually start really getting into your industry and your company, that's when people start having questions start popping up. Sometimes student teams will meet with a professor, they'll check in with their marketing guy or whatever, and they say, there's a hole here, you need to find out like why, or get some numbers, or find out about the consumer, or something like that. Go find Mrs. Slater kind of thing. Again, that's a good email. Sometimes you'll see me at the desk in the library when I'm doing my desk time or walking by, but it's always a good idea just to send an email to see when I'm available. And then we can meet in my office or out on the floor, or sometimes it's just an email back and forth kind of thing. Okay. The ref help at SJU is the alias that's answered by all the librarians. So if you have a very super specific question that you think any librarian could answer, you might get the education librarian or, one of the others who aren't, liaison to the business school. So if you think it's like, I have a question about finding something and you think it's a fairly straightforward question, otherwise it's going to get kicked over to me eventually. So sometimes it's just better to reach out to me. Okay, so there is a guide affiliated with this, and open this up. So this is the policy guide. And so we're on the landing page here. You'll see there's a picture of me as the liaison to the business school. You can email me through the guide. And my contact information, my office is in the Drexel Library. You can ask for me at the front desk. If you make an appointment with me and I'm expecting you, just tell the people at the front desk you have an appointment with me, and they'll, get me, or they'll usher you back to my office. Okay, so these are some of the things. Obviously, FactSet is going to be your first go-to, but other things like the Bloomberg station. So the Hobbs School of Business, they have a license. They have the license for FactSet. They have the license for the Bloombergs. So we have one that they gave us to keep in the library. So there's a Bloomberg station on the main floor of the Drexel Library that you can avail yourself of. If sometimes when I meet with students, the teams, we end up at the Bloomberg station eventually. So that's there. There is no sign up currently for the Bloomberg station, so it's really first come, first serve on that. And you can tell which one it is. It's when you walk into the Drexel Library, it's a double monitor Bloomberg, has a Bloomberg keyboard. It's pretty straight. It's pretty easy to pick out among all the others. The others you should be aware of. The library subscribes to a number of things that will contribute and enhance your research. For example, we have Mergent Intellect. Now, those of you, you're seniors, so everybody's probably has used Hoovers at one point or another. Hoovers is no longer. That product has been sunsetted, meaning it's going away by the end of the calendar year. And so what it's being replaced by the vendor, is Mergent Intellect. It actually is much more powerful than Hoovers ever was, and you'll be able to do create lists, do a lot of information. It has a lot more data in it, and it has a lot more functionality than Hoovers ever did. So I think it's actually a win-win for people. And then Mergent Online, which is I'll just open this in a new tab to give you an idea. So there's Mergent Online, and there's Mergent Intellect right here. And this one allows you, and so this is going to be, what's running under the hood here is a lot of millions and millions of Dun & Bradstreet records. So not only would you say, like say you were doing American Eagle, that's on the verboten list right now. But if you were doing American Eagle, you could put in American Eagle, but you wouldn't just get the record for American Eagle, the headquarters, you would get all the American Eagle branch locations, for example. So if you had to find out what were the, all the branches of American Eagle out there, you'd be able to do that. Same with all the others, all the subsidiaries, all the branches, all the divisions. Private companies are in here, non-US companies are in here. There's also industry information when you get to that point. That's run by First Research. I will send out a guide in a couple of weeks for external analysis. So when you get to that point, I will make that available in the Google site, the BPHQ, and to your faculty members. And so you'll all have access to that as well. That'll be like the next step. There's a lot of things like new business launches and so on. Also, we have Nexus Uni Company Dossier. What that is it's actually what I would call an aggregator. So it's not just content from one vendor, meaning, S&P or Thomson Reuters or whatever. It aggregates, it compiles from a number of different sources. So what that will give you is, have they been involved in any lawsuits, for example? Any news items, negative news items, and so on. So there's going to be a lot of compiled data. So it's kind of a one-stop for that kind of thing. They all do different things in different ways. So when you're branching out, you're going to want to look at a number of these things. S&P Net Advantage, so that's S&P Capital IQ. The library has a contract with them. And again, you could go in here and you could look up a company. And so I'm going to use American Eagles because that's on the list. You can't use it. So this would be, your 10K, your 10Q. There would be the Standard & Poor's industry surveys in here. There would be the stock reports. There would be that. Now, going back to this, you can, I want to mention we do have a copy of the textbook on reserve at the library. All of these links, these tabs across, are going to be to different areas of content based on the kind of questions that I would get. So basically it's kind of me being kind of trying to get as much information out there to you. And these are going to be like the basic questions that people would ask. Supply chain, people ask me about supply chain, so I have information about supply chain here, and so on. Will this answer every question? No, it won't, because after your company selection, you're going to have all different industries and you're going to be going all different directions with your strategies. So this will get you started, but it's not going to answer each and every question because you're all going to be going off in different directions. And the deeper you get into the semester, the more interesting the questions get. So I will get some very interesting questions or research requests, or I need to meet with you because we're trying to find out the following. And you don't know what those questions are yet, so there's no way that we would have anything that's going to answer everything. Now, I also want to mention that you do not want to limit yourself to just what's here at St. Joe's. We have a lot of content. We're a big business school. We do have a lot of support as far as resources, both at the Hobbs School of Business and through the library, to support the projects. However, I do want to point out to you, on my handout, I mention the Free Library of Philadelphia. And I want to just put in a plug for that because it is a good idea, if you have not done so, to get your free library card and PIN. It is extremely simple to do it online nowadays. It used to be you have to do a form. And we do have a little tiny branch over there across the street from the field house, but you don't have to do it that way. So I just want to point out that these are some of the databases, and I put those on the handout about the kind of things that you may avail yourself of that we do not have here. Now, there's a little bit of overlap. But for example, they have a product called OneSource from Dun & Bradstreet. So D&B Business Browser Pro. They have a lot of content in there that we don't have access to. They have Reference USA, Ref USA. Again, something that we do not have. It is a great resource to use, and I can sit down and show you how to use it. I'm happy to do that. Business decision. So what the Free Library, their mission is different than an academic library's mission. They support small business owners and entrepreneurs in Philadelphia. If you are going, I pay city wage tax, I work on this side of the street. You all are students here in Philadelphia. If you live or work in the Commonwealth of PA or go to school here, you get a free library card and PIN for free. So Morningstar is in here, Value Line is in here, Business Insights Global. There's a lot of content that we don't have access to right now that you would have access to. And the beauty of that is that when you graduate, you will still have access to business databases. So if you're doing a job search, you're researching, maybe you're starting have a little startup in mind, whatever, you still have access to wonderful resources. So let me go back out here and I will show you where you go. Right here, get a library card. Who gets a library card? It's no cost to you because you are a student here. So you do it online, you sign up and get access immediately. They will give you a very long library card number, and then you have to select a 4-digit PIN. I always tell students to please use the last 4 digits of their cell phone number because you will never forget the last 4 digits of your cell phone number. So I can't help you if you forget it because it's on the free library side. But please do that, and then once you do that, and if you have any questions, I will sit down with you and show you how to run a report in Business Decision, how to use Reference USA, any of those things. I'll be happy to do it. But again, it's a plug. It helps you later on. Just passes it to help you with this assignment, and when you graduate, you want to have that access. So with that, I'm done. If there's any questions, I will stick around, and good luck to all of you. Is there anything else we want to do now, Matt? Are we gonna? Are we wrapping up now?
As I get emails from people, if you had it in a prior class, you will only get one email. And if you only get one email, you have to use forgot username or forgot password. If you do that and you do not get your username or your password from them, it means at some point your graduation date was in wrong, and that's what you have to email and tell me, my name is blah, blah, blah. My graduation date is probably in wrong. Could you please check? And I will do that. I just can't, it's not me looking at it. I have to email them with the various ones that come through. So that's one. Two, for those of you that had it before, make sure you look at the email because the site to launch it from is not launch.factset.com anymore. So some of you might have been running into issues with that. Your email has, and you must use that link. Okay? Any other questions? I'll open it up to see if there's questions on FactSet or company selection or library resources. You do not have to add an account. Any other questions on company selection or on FactSet? Water is out there. Pizza gets delivered any minute now. We just went through things a lot faster than we expected. We didn't want random people eating all of your pizza. Flag me down if you need me.